Today we're going to talk a little bit about the environment. What do you think the word environment means? It can mean the surroundings where a person, an animal or a plant lives. It can mean the entire natural world. So why do you think it's so important to look after the environment? The environment consists of everything we see around us, like trees, plants and animals. It also gives them a place to live. Let's imagine that we didn't look after the environment for a second. What do you think the world would look like? How do you think that would affect us? Well, as I said, a healthy environment gives us good land, clean air and fresh water. If we didn't have good, rich, healthy land, well, we wouldn't be able to grow anything. And if we couldn't grow anything, it doesn't just mean that there'd be no pretty trees in our gardens. It means we couldn't grow vegetables. We couldn't grow fruit either. We couldn't grow things like cotton, which is really common in a lot of clothes that we wear. I'm starting to worry about this environment thing. Let's move on to air and water. If we let the air and the water become polluted, we would become very unhealthy and sick by breathing in too much carbon dioxide. What's carbon dioxide? Well, carbon dioxide is a gas, which is fine to breathe in small doses, but it isn't good for us if we breathe in too much. If we couldn't grow trees, it would mean that there'd be no trees to give us oxygen. If there was no trees to give us clean oxygen, it would mean that we're breathing in air with too much carbon dioxide in it. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty convinced we should probably start looking after the environment. How do we make sure that we're doing everything possible to look after the environment? I know. First, let's take a look at some things that damage it. Let's start with the big one, fuel. You see, on Earth, when we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil and natural gas, although they are good energy sources, they damage the environment by releasing that gas called carbon dioxide into the air. Not good. So they are sources of energy, but they're non-renewable. Renewable means that we can create more of it. So if something is non-renewable, it means that it's eventually going to run out. So we should probably try to reduce how much fossil fuels we burn. But Mentor John, if we don't have fossil fuels, we won't have electricity. We won't have cars. Wouldn't there be chaos? That's an excellent question, little Miss Smart Person. But we can actually use some renewable sources of energy instead. Did you know that we can create electricity from sources apart from burning fossil fuels, such as hydroelectricity, solar energy, and wind energy? Meaning we can create energy from water, from the sun, and wind energy comes from, well, the wind. And we can also power cars by electricity nowadays, which is really cool. Now I'm going to show you another really cool way of looking after the environment. See my Busker Brewsker down here? It's got a sign on the front of it. What does that sign mean? What's that? Very good. It's the recycling symbol. Recycling is part of the 3 R's, and we can use the 3 R's to help ensure that we're doing our utmost to protect the environment. The 3 R's are reduce, reuse, and recycle. Let's start with reduce. Reducing means that we reduce the amount of waste we have on a day-to-day basis. In other words, we lower the amount of waste we use. A great way of reducing our waste is to just think about a few things. Like, do I really need another plastic bag when I'm shopping? Or, do I really need to buy that magazine? Can I put a sign on my front door which will tell people that I don't want junk mail? That's a big one for waste. You're also aiming to try and buy less items with less packaging on them. That's going to help reducing waste a lot. Remember, using less equals throwing out less. Also, make sure you're throwing food into the brown bin so it can be composted. Let's look at the next R. Oh, the next R is reuse. So that just means that you reuse things more than once. If you need to buy something, see if you can get it second hand somewhere first. Second hand? No, it's nothing to do with your hands. Second hand means that someone has owned it already. Another way of reusing something is to borrow and share things with your friends where possible. And of course, a big one is to try and fix things and make them good as new again, instead of just throwing them out and getting a new one. Let's look at the third R, recycling. Recycling literally means to change an object into something new. Let's think about that for a second. Can you think of anything that was one thing and then you changed it or added onto it to turn it into something else? Paper is a really good example. A lot of paper that you might buy has been recycled from old paper. Recycling is one of the best ways of decreasing pollution and helping the environment. We can recycle paper, glass, tin, plastic, just to name a few. Now here in Ireland, we have a list of things which can be recycled. On that list, we have rigid plastics, packaging such as drink bottles, cleaning bottles, butter containers, yogurt cartons, salad tubes, fruit and vegetable trays, plastic milk cartons, soap or shampoo bottles. That's a lot. All of these things can be placed in your recycling bin. You just need to make sure that they're clean, dry, and that you place them loosely into the bin. Soft plastics like cling film can't be collected for recycling in Ireland, so you need to put those in your general waste bin. Did you know all tins can be put in your recycling bin? Again, you just need to make sure that they're clean and dry. What else can you put in there? Oh yeah, paper, cardboard. They must be clean and dry before going in with the rest of your recycling, but they can be recycled. If they're not clean and dry, they can contaminate the rest of your recycling bin. We don't want that. Did you know a pizza box with a little bit of food still in it can contaminate the whole recycling bin? So keep putting in any cardboard, paper, egg boxes, newspapers, cardboard tubes, Tetra Pak cartons, but they have to be completely clean and completely dry. If something once had food or liquid in them, they have to be rinsed clean, and you need to shake them up a lot with water before they go into your recycling bin. So what happens when your green bin gets taken away? Well, your mixed recycle bin is sorted into different streams for recycling by people and machines in recycling facilities all around the country. If you place items stacked inside one another, the machines aren't able to sort them out, and they might not be recycled then. So it's really important that you stack them loosely in your green bin. Okay, boys and girls, let's see what you've learned. Now, I have a big bag of rubbish here. And we're going to see what can be recycled, what needs to go into the organic bin, and what has to go into the normal bin. And before I do anything, I need to put on my gloves because I'm going to be handling some rubbish. Okay, I have my Lavini Urim. Let's sort this rubbish. So, over here, I have my recycling bin. Over here, I have my normal bin. And over here, I have my organic bin. Let's see what's in the bin today. cereal boxes, cardboard. I think they're going to go into the recycling. Now, this is a tricky one. It looks like it used to contain some vegetables, possibly onions. And although it's a hard plastic, it's covered with a soft plastic, which you can't recycle. So what I would do is take off the soft plastic. That goes in our busker brewsker, and this is going to go in our recycling bin. Now, we have a yogurt pot. It actually looks pretty clean. It's dry on the inside. Yep, it's ready for recycling. This is fun. What else do we have in here? Ooh, plastic bottle. It's rinsed out. It's a hard plastic, so that's going into the recycling bin. Whoa, look how much waste we're saving already. If that was to go into the normal bin, it wouldn't get recycled at all. This is fun. Now we have drink bottle, hard plastic, so it goes in. Whoa, wait a second. It seems that it wasn't completely rinsed out. So if I want to recycle this, I need to pour the rest of this drink out, wash it, rinse it, make sure it's dry, and then it can go into the recycling bin. So I'll leave that here. I'm going to do that later. Soft plastic. May have contained bread. Unfortunately, right now, it can't be recycled. Normal bin. Ooh, look at this. This is glass. Now, glass can be recycled, but you can't put it into your green bin. So you need to go to a bottle bank. But the top can be recycled because that's hard plastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew the top, put that into the recycling bin, and then this goes into a pile with other glasses to be taken to the bottle bank. What else do we have in here? Smells pretty fresh. Will this go into the recycling bin or will it go into the normal bin? Oh, wait a second. This is biodegradable. That means it goes into the organic bin. What's next? Let's see. Cardboard. Used to contain something. Yep, straight into the recycling bin. I'm very careful not to push things down into the recycling bin, because if they're stacked or they're stuck together, they might not get separated. So it's really important to leave them loose. Ooh, this is a new one. Tin. And if I remember correctly, all tins get thrown into the recycling. Eggs. Oh, I love eggs. They're so good for you. Full of protein. Let me just check to make sure there are no eggshells in there. No food remnants. Clean as a whistle. Into the recycling. Somebody likes their fruit. Let's see. If it's starting to go off, it means that it's biodegradable. And if it's biodegradable, it can go into the organic bin. And last but not least, we have an empty biscuit carton. Any food in it? Nope. Anything on the sides? Nope. Just dry cardboard. Recycling. So there you have it, boys and girls. There are so many simple ways of reducing the amount of waste we use. We're using many things in our very own homes and recycling our rubbish so that it can be used again and it's not wasted. See if you can create a poster at home to remind people to reduce, reuse and recycle. Why? Because it's good for our environment. Slán!
Today we are going to design an eco-friendly house. We use energy to light and heat our homes and schools, to power our cars and buses, and to work electrical appliances. Most of the energy is made from burning fossil fuels such as coal, oil, gas and peat. These are called non-renewable sources of energy because they cannot be used again and eventually they will run out. They were formed millions of years ago with the organic remains of animals and plants. They are nowadays burned to produce energy, but when the existing reserve has been used up, fossil fuels will be gone forever. When fossil fuels are burned off, they give off gases such as carbon dioxide, which are released into the environment. Oil is a fossil fuel. It's a black liquid that you normally find under the ground or under the sea. Oil is processed to make many products such as fuel for cars or even chemicals, paints and plastics. It can be very polluting and bad for the environment. Oil will eventually run out. It is therefore called a non-renewable energy source. Coal is a black or brown rock found under the ground and is very dirty. Coal is burned in power plants and turned into electricity. Burning coal is, however, extremely bad for the environment because when it burns, gases such as carbon dioxide are released into the environment and coal will eventually run out, so therefore it is also called a non-renewable energy source. When we burn these fossil fuels, we release a lot of gas called carbon dioxide or CO2 into the air. We have released so much CO2 into the air that it has started to trap heat around the Earth, and this has created global warming, which causes climate change. Energy can also be created by using renewable sources though. Sources of energy such as wind, solar, energy from the sun, wave, tidal, biofuels and geothermal. These are sources of energy that will never run out and they can be used again and again. It's thanks to the work of engineers and scientists that we are able to harness the renewable energy available to us and make it useful. Climate change is a change in the normal weather patterns across the whole world. One part of the world might begin to get unusually cold winters, whilst others might start having uncommonly hot summers. It might start to rain a lot in one place, while in another part of the world there may be droughts. Scientists believe that climate change is happening because we are creating a lot of CO2 and releasing it into the Earth's atmosphere. The CO2 sits around the Earth like a layer and keeps it warm, allowing the sun's rays in, but not out. The Earth is gradually heating up, and this is called global warming and is creating climate change we are experiencing. One way to stop this is by using renewable energy instead of non-renewable sources of energy. Solar energy is the light and heat that come from the sun. The light and heat from the sun not only make the plants grow, but it can also be used by humans to produce electricity or to warm up the water in your house. The energy from the sun will never run out and it is called renewable energy. A solar panel is a board generally placed on the roof of a house or in any other place that is exposed to sunlight. Wind power is the energy produced by the movement of the air. When the wind blows, it generates movement that is captured by wind turbines and turned into electricity. A wind turbine is a huge tower with blades. Wind power will never run out and therefore is a source of renewable energy. Ocean energy is energy from waves and tides. And being an island like Ireland has its advantages. Ireland is fortunate to be surrounded by the Irish Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. We can harness the energy in these ocean waters by using the movement of the tides and waves to generate electricity. All around Ireland's coast, the tide flows in and out twice per day, making this source of energy reliable. Hydro energy is energy from flowing water. The energy in flowing water, called hydropower, has been an important source of power in Ireland for centuries. Rivers and waterfalls have been used to drive water wheels and mills for grinding flour and corn since early times. Today we use hydropower to generate electricity by pushing water turbines. The electricity made from hydropower is called hydroelectricity. So biomass energy is from wood. When harvested sustainably, timber is considered a renewable resource. In Ireland, did you know that more than 90% of our electricity is made from fossil fuels, which are a non-renewable source of energy? If it could be properly harnessed, enough sunlight falls on the earth in just 1 hour to meet world energy demands for a whole year. So if we were able to harness that, could you imagine if everywhere in the world we had solar panels for 1 hour out of 1 year, it would keep us going for the whole year long. Can you believe that? So enough about that. Let's get started on our little eco house. I started kind of doing some paper mache with it here. So we're going to do like the idea of we're going to take like a little square of land, okay? We're going to make it green and we're going to make a little slight hill in the corner, and you're going to see why. So to get cracking on our land, you can do this on a tray, or you could, again, this is a giant shoebox. You could do it really with anything you can find around the house. So what I'm doing is I have toilet paper, and I'm going to wet it a bit. And this is going to be very messy work, so get ready for that. With some PVA. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start scrunching it a bit, making sure that it's wet the whole way through so that it sticks nicely. And I'm going to start planting that down. Okay. I have a slight slope done there, so what I'm going to do next is I am going to paint my ground. I'm going to paint it green, okay? So I'm going to paint the ground green. So off we go. So I'm going to pour some paint out here for myself and get working. All right, okay. So now we have our land done, but what I'm going to add in so we're kind of doing, it's a dream home now. Not everybody lives on a hill with a little stream or river beside them, but in this dream eco house, that's what's happening here. So what I'm going to do is I have some dark blue tissue paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put it alongside. I'm going to PVA a bit of glue, and I'm going to put it alongside here so that we can use it as a source of renewable energy, okay? So I'm going to scrunch this up a bit. Now, and there we are. So that is our land done. So I'm going to pop this aside because now we have our lovely site made for our lovely eco home. So the next thing we're going to do is the house. So for the house, what I did is I made a cuboid and I left 2 sides empty. So what you basically do is you get a long strip of cardboard and then you fold it in half, and then another little quarter and a quarter, and there, or you could just do a little cube, like a little square, it doesn't really matter. And then I added eaves kind of here on the side so that my little roof will fit on it. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to glue some paper onto my house to colour it, and then we're going to put some windows on. So I think I'm going to do, ooh, look at this nice, tasteful, kind of creamy taupe colour. So I'm going to pop that onto my house as my outside paint. I'm going to take the paint away. Okay, off I go. Okay, that's my wallpaper done. Time to cut out a tiny door and stick it on. There's my tiny door. I need some tiny windows to go with my tiny door. Now, there we go. And then it's time for me to pop the roof on this house. Or my roof in on top of it, I should say. Okay, so that's my little house there. It's going to sit on my site here by the river. So our house is ready and so is our site. So let's start making this home eco-friendly. We'll start with wind power. So wind turbines need to get frequent wind, so we should place these away from the shelter of buildings and as high as possible. So I'm going to pop this I'm going to move my little house forward and I'm going to pop this up on a height there beside, so I have a wind turbine there. In Ireland, they're usually placed near the coast or on hills. So for your house, you can make a small wind turbine to place on the roof or on a hill you've made beside your house. Next, let's soak up the sun. Solar panels are made of shiny metal and are usually placed on a roof to get maximum sun. So we're going to make solar panels in the house by adding a small strip of silver foil, or you can do a painted black panel on the roof of the house. So what we're just going to do is we're going to get a tiny bit of foil and just make 2 little solar panels on the house. And I think I'm going to put them at the front so that we can see them. Solar panel here. Oopsie daisy. Symmetrical. Now, okay? So we need to make sure that they're high up enough to get sun. So let's imagine that this house is near a body of fast moving water and harness the hydropower. So if the house is beside a river or waterfall, you may be able to harness the power of the moving water to make electricity. The water has to be moving at speed, so a lake, a pond, or a slow stream won't do. And what we're going to do is build a small dam over the water to capture the power with a small little piece of cardboard with holes in it so that the water can get through it, and it's going to represent a hydropower station. So I'm going to grab a tiny piece of cardboard I have here. I have a nice little orange bit here and it'll kind of look nice and bright so we can see it. So let's pop that in there. Now, off we go. Perfect. Now let's go underground. So we're going to add some geothermal energy. Pipes are laid in the garden or yard under the ground for geothermal energy. So you can use straws, wool, or pipe cleaners to demonstrate this in our model house. So we would have put these under the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them running under the house. So geothermal pipes. Now, and then our eco-friendly house is complete. With a few simple changes with what we've already got, such as water, sun and wind, we can find a way to take care of our environment.
Boys and girls, the other day, I was wrapped up in a blanket because it was cold outside. So I was in my blanket and I was watching a film and I had a cup of hot chocolate in my hand and I was so cozy. And I could hear the wind howling outside. It was like, and I started thinking to myself, it must be hard for the animals who are out in the cold during the winter months. And then I started thinking some more. I was thinking about hibernation and how some animals are lucky enough to hibernate during the winter months. Do you remember hearing that word before, hibernate? It means that an animal eats a lot of food to build up fat so that they can stay warm, and then they fall asleep during the winter. And then they wake up when the weather gets a little bit warmer. Now, I say they sleep, but in actual fact, for some animals, it's a little bit more than just sleep. Hibernation is a state that their body goes into. For example, the dwarf lemur in Madagascar. When they hibernate, their little tiny little hearts go from beating 300 times a minute to beating less than 6 times per minute. Their body does this so they can save energy. And instead of breathing every second, they can go 10 minutes in between breaths. Here we go. Nope. I definitely couldn't be a hibernating dwarf lemur in Madagascar. It's a pretty amazing way of saving energy though, during the cold months. Some other animals that hibernate around the world are bears, chipmunks, bats, bumblebees, that's the queens only, and hedgehogs. But can you think of any other animals that might struggle with the cold during the winter months, especially here in Ireland? If you were to look outside, what animals could you see during the winter? What animals would be around? Well, what about the birds? How do they cope with the winter months with their skinny little legs? Well, a lot of birds migrate Maybe you've heard that word too before as well. Migrate means to move to a different habitat depending on the seasons. So let's talk about the migration of birds. Now, birds are absolutely amazing. Every year, birds travel all the way across the globe to warmer parts of the world. It'd be like if you and I said, you know what, I'm getting a little bit sick of this cold. Let's get out of here and we'll head off to Africa just for the winter until it gets warmer. Come on, let's go. Be pretty nice, wouldn't it? Now, it's not like these birds just wake up one morning and go, yep, it's getting a little bit colder. I'm going to take a trip to somewhere warmer. Some of these migrations can be thousands of kilometres away. The Irish swallow, for example, travels all the way from Ireland to South Africa, which is over 10,000 kilometres away. So how does a small little bird like a sparrow tackle such a journey? Well, you would think that it's the same way that a human would prepare for a marathon. Practice. But scientists have actually discovered that birds don't actually train for a big journey. They just set off. Could you imagine just going, okay, I'm ready, let's go to Africa. A study was done on geese to see whether they flew more before migrating to bulk up their muscles. But it was discovered that birds' muscles just grow a little bit just before they set off. They don't even have to fly more. Now, having said that, there are a few birds in Ireland that stay in Ireland for the winter. And the ones that are left here, they have a bit of a tough job of staying warm and getting enough food. Birds are quite deceptive too, because you might look out your window and you might see a little robin redbreast, looking quite fat, sitting on a fence. When in actual fact, what the robin is doing is ruffling up his or her feathers to try and stay warm. So they might look quite big and they look like they're getting enough food, but they're just puffing up their feathers to try and keep the heat. Now, often during the winter here, the ground can be frozen, so it's really, really hard for the birds to dig for food for themselves. So what can we do to help? Well, to be honest, you can actually give an extra hand to the birds feeding all year round. It doesn't have to be just in the winter time. Now, I know Moontor Ray showed you how to make a bird feeder in a lesson, and it was such a good idea that I thought that I'd show you a few more ways of making bird feeders using recyclable items in your very own homes. Here we go. For the first one, I have a milk carton, and you're going to need a marker and a scissors. And as usual, with the scissors, you need to be very careful. So all I'm going to do with my marker is draw in a little window. Just like that. I'm going to draw another one over here, small one. Doesn't have to be perfectly right either. I don't think the birds are going to mind. They're not going to be saying, hey, this door frame isn't exactly straight. Why, yada. And we'll do a third one on this side as well. There we go. Now, what I would suggest is you get a grown-up at home to help you with this, because scissors, as we know, are sharp. So we're just going to make a hole in our plastic here. There we go. Cut a little bit, and then we can cut in. We'll cut up here as well. And we'll cut across. Two done. We have lovely windows in our bird feeder. And voila. Now, what I love about this one is there's actually a little ridge on the milk carton here. So when you pour the food in, it's just going to stay in there and you'll get a lot of birds coming in to visit. So let's pour in some food. Nice bird seed for your little visitors out in the garden. And you can tie some string on the top and hang it off branches. Pretty cool, right? So that's just one of them. The next one I have is an orange that I squeezed earlier on just to make some orange juice. Now, things like this you can compost, but why not turn it into a very, very easy bird feeder? You scoop out the rest of your orange, just like I've done here, and you've got a nice little hollow. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some string, and again, I'm going to use my scissors to make some little holes around the orange, maybe 3 or 4. And again, be very careful with this. 4. Leave our knife over there, and we'll take some string. Now you can make them as long or short as you want, because it's really up to you where you decide to hang this from. You could hang it from a tree or hang it from a fence, anywhere you want. You might need to push them through the orange peel. Gets a little bit messy, but that's okay. Tie them in a little knot here. And voila! Nice little feeder that you can hang off a railings or a little branch. And let's put some food in it as well. Now, this actually looks like a fancy dessert that you get in a restaurant. Check that out. If that was brought out on a plate to me, I'd be like, thank you very much. Pretty nice, huh? Let's just hold it up without spilling the seed all over the place. Just so you can see it. Ah, a little cute little bird feeder you can stick up on the branches. I like that one. Now, the last one I'm going to show you, you're going to need... Now, this was something that I had in my house and it was getting thrown out, and I said, I wonder could I use it for something? It's a stirring spoon, or like a little kind of spatula, but it's fairly broken and got a little bit burnt as well with my cooking. So rather than throwing it out, I thought, how could I use that in one of my lessons? And today, you're about to see how we take this broken spoon spatula thing and we're going to turn it into a really, really nice bird feeder. So this is the last one. You're going to need a jar, some sort of wooden thing that a bird can stand on. It doesn't have to be a spoon, spatula thing like I have. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tape it down first. I'm going to use my scissors for this. Keep it neat. Here we go. I'm going to put my jar down, the spoon on top of it. Voila! Now, you probably want to wrap it with string as well. If you have masking tape at home or insulating tape, that would be even better because sellotape won't really last out in the rain, which is why I'm tying it as well. Nice long piece of string for this one. There we go. And I'll leave that here. So now we're just going to wrap the string around our jar and our spoon. Maybe give it twice. And I can tie a little knot at the end. Use my second one here as well. So the reason we've added 2 pieces of string is so we can hang it on a branch. And again, you can make it as long or short as you want. If you want it hanging down further, you just add more string to make it longer. Okay, so now, if you want as well, you can put some peanut butter on the inside of your jar so that this feed won't fall out or blow away. I'm just going to put some in here. So what we've done here is we've made a little bird feeder out of a glass, and a spoon. Now, why is the spoon there? Well, it's a nice little perch for the birds to land on. And if the food is coming out like this, they can just sit there and peck away and have a nice meal. So there you have it. 3 very simple ways of making bird feeders from recyclable things that you can find in your very own homes. Now, you can leave them outside for our feathered little friends to help them get some grub all year long. Now, I have a great idea. Why not make 1, 2, or even all 3 of these bird feeders and see if you can catch a bird feeding from them? When I say catch, I don't mean actually catch. I mean see if you can see them.
Hello, my name is Dara McAnulty and I love to write. I wrote this book when I was 14 years old. I'm 16 now, and writing about the things I love, about the natural world, nature, the world that surrounds us, has always been one of the most fun things that I've ever done. And it's also so much fun to write about those sort of things and to write in general. I began by just loving nature, loving the natural world, and just trying to explore everywhere. So this book is a story of a boy, me, trying to find his way in the world. And it's exploring how much I love the natural world. I'm autistic, and that means that I experience the world in a slightly different way. It means that I feel everything a little bit more intensely. I can get overwhelmed and just want to crawl away and curl into a ball. But being out in nature for me really helped with that, because I feel more at peace in nature. It feels a lot more calm, in a sense. And it gave me a place to go to when things were getting really tough. It gave me a lifeline, in a sense. And it's that place where I feel at home. But being autistic, I feel, has almost been a gift in a sense for me. It's allowed me to think about things in a different way, to see things from a different angle. Because this world feels like a blaze of color to me. This beautiful cacophony of sound and color and music and ideas. And sometimes it does rush into you and it sort of feels a bit extreme. But it's beautiful, and I think when you pay attention to all of the little details, like I do, I think you can sort of gain a greater appreciation for the world that we live in. So writing was my way of trying to learn about the world that I had experienced and the natural world. I feel like when you see stuff, and when you're listening, or maybe when you're smelling or hearing, you sort of I don't really understand it when it first comes in. But when I write it down, it all seems all so simple. It all sort of clicks. And by writing it down, I realized that, because when I was really young, I used to love looking at blackbirds, or more specifically, the shadow of a blackbird on my parents' bedroom's curtain as it would sing. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was doing. But one day the sound of the blackbird stopped and I was utterly terrified. But I started to read and I started to try and learn, and I wrote down my experiences. And now, when I know that the blackbird stopped singing, it's because it's just gone away for a time. It's gone away for the winter, because it only sings in spring. And writing allows me to understand that, and that's why it's so important for me. I think that to be a naturalist, to be someone who loves nature, all you really need is to love nature. All you need is a bit of passion, a bit of curiosity. And I remember this book here is really special to me, because this was the first book that I bought with my own money. I remember begging to go to the bookshop after learning about mushrooms to buy my first ever mushroom book. And I've loved mushrooms ever since because they're so fascinating. They've got these, they're so interesting. And the more you learn about them, the more incredible they get. So did you know that what you see on the soil, just peeking above the soil, is only a small part of a massive organism? The biggest mushroom in the world, I think, is about 20 square kilometers across. They cover the entirety of the forest. When you walk through a forest, you're basically walking on top of a layer, this web of mushroom, and they can almost communicate with each other as well, across vast distances. And I feel like once you dig a little bit deeper, you just see this incredible complex system that just blows your mind. And that was what really got me about mushrooms, is that, oh my word, there's so much more here than I realized. I'm just going to show you a few of my favorite mushrooms. We've got the fly agaric here. It's like your traditional fairy toadstool sort of mushroom with its beautiful white spots on red. Then we've got, I just love flicking through mushroom books because you kind of just stumble upon these beautiful mushrooms, like these brackets fungi. So they sort of, have you ever seen them sticking to trees? And they're really hard. They're almost like rocks sticking out of a tree. I find them absolutely beautiful. Of course, if you ever find mushrooms out in the forest, do not eat them. They can be poisonous. Only ever eat them with an expert. That's my disclaimer. But they're so beautiful. And I feel like if you just go outside and take a little bit of notice about the incredible world that surrounds us, you can see these beautiful jewels everywhere. I think there is a greater understanding of what being autistic means. I think we understand it a little bit more, but we still need people to just take that little bit of care, in a sense, to realize that not everybody in this world is the same, and we all have something unique and special to give to it, to make the world a better place. I think just showing that little bit of compassion to all of us makes us stronger, in a sense. And I do think that it's getting better. People are learning, but just taking that little bit of compassion. I feel like compassion is one of those things that we all need, because it just expands your world and it stops you from closing off and it allows you to learn. And I think that's the most important thing. In one sense, lockdown has allowed us to focus in our attention on a really small space like our gardens. And I feel like just taking that time to go out into your garden, or just if you're living in an apartment, just taking that time to look outside and to notice all those little details can make your life so much more exciting, because you go out on this voyage of discovery into your garden or into wild spaces, and you never know what you're going to find under a rock, under a log. And that, I think, it's beautiful. It is beautiful.